I've heard many hurtful things in my life, and some were directed at me, like, "You're a single woman, you're the loser," but nothing compares to the awful insult my brother-in-law threw at me. I'm not going to just ignore it. My name is Amy Smith. I'm 38, single, and I work hard. You might wonder why I have a brother-in-law if I'm not married. That's because I'm engaged. My fiancé, James, is 6 years younger than me. We met through a mutual friend and hit it off right away. I have a very busy work schedule and sometimes work on my days off. But when I met James, he became my escape from all the stress. He cooks, sews, and works hard, things I'm not great at. After we moved in together, he took care of the house and even cleaned my work clothes. I felt so grateful. I often felt bad because I knew he was busy too. So, I made it a habit to treat him to a nice dinner for all his hard work. "Don't worry about me," he'd say. "I like doing housework, and I'm not as busy as you are." James always supported me, and soon we started planning for our families to meet. We had already introduced our parents to each other after we got engaged, but now we wanted to have a dinner party for both our families to get to know each other better. James has an older brother, and I have 2 younger siblings. We decided to meet everyone before the wedding, but James explained, "I'm sorry, but my brother can't make it because of his work." I knew his brother was a busy lawyer, so I understood. We can't always meet at the wedding, I thought. I wasn't too worried about James' brother not being able to attend the family gathering. I felt that it was most important for the couple and the parents to meet, even if the siblings couldn't make it. James, though, seemed tense. He mentioned that his brother could be a bit distant and rude, and even if he did come, he was worried about how his brother might behave. On the day of the party, James' brother didn't show up. James looked relieved. My brother and sister were both there, and the gathering turned out to be really fun. My future in-laws and I got along well, and my siblings liked James, which made me feel happy and relaxed. It was a great day, although I still wished I could have met James' brother. Little did I know then that when I finally met him, I would find him rude and be glad that he hadn't come to the party. A while later, my mom and I had to go to the university hospital. She hadn't been feeling well, so after a visit to a local clinic, she was referred for a thorough checkup. Other than some palpitations and dizziness, there wasn't anything serious, but I wanted to make sure she was okay, especially with my wedding coming up. My mom is in her mid-60s, and although she looks young, I worried something serious could happen at any time. I felt a sense of responsibility, as she had raised me and my siblings so well, even marrying later in life. I suggested, "Ma'am, why don't I pay for a full checkup? This is why I work so hard, to help out in times like these." She agreed. Because some tests couldn't be done in one day, we had to return to the hospital several times. It was during our second visit that things went wrong. The hospital was packed that day, with long lines everywhere. My mom and I were waiting with some hot tea in a quiet spot away from the main waiting area, taking a break. Suddenly, my phone rang. It might have been a work call. I took a sip of my tea with my mom, then stepped away to take a phone call. It was a work-related call, asking if I planned to change my last name after joining the family registry when I got married. When I returned to my mom, I suddenly heard someone yelling. I thought, why is someone yelling in the hospital? I hoped my mom was okay. As I got closer, I realized the yelling was aimed at my mother. I rushed over to see what was going on. My mom stood up and was bowing repeatedly to a man in a fancy suit. He looked like someone important, with a luxurious watch, shoes, and slicked back hair. He seemed more like a debt collector than a friend of my mom's. I politely interrupted, asking, "Excuse me, did my mother do something to upset you?" The man looked me over and said, "She placed her tea on the seat, and when I sat her day down, it spilled on my suit. What are you going to do about it? I have business to attend to." I looked at his suit, and it was slightly damp. I quickly apologized and offered to pay for the dry cleaning, but the man wasn't satisfied and started yelling even louder. His shouting attracted attention, and soon nurses and a small crowd gathered around us. Eventually, he seemed to realize the scene he was causing and said, I'll let you off with just paying for the cleaning. Then, he asked, how can I contact you? I didn't have my business card on me, and just then, a security guard approached, asking if everything was okay. The man, clearly annoyed, threw his business card at my feet and sneered, make sure you call me. There's no point in running away. I have close ties with this hospital, and they'll give me your information. I was confused and upset. As I tried to apologize again, the man took one last look at me and said, you're single at your age. Women have an expiration date, but you're not just expired, you're like unsold trash. You're nothing but garbage. A single woman. I was furious. Before I could respond to his insult, the man ran off to avoid the security guard. My stomach was churning with anger, both for not protecting my mom and for the horrible things he said to us. I gave a slight bow to the onlookers and security guards who rushed over to help. I picked up the business card that had fallen at my feet and was curious about who the rude man was. As I read his name and title, I realized what this was all about. I decided to cancel my mother's checkup and prioritize her mental well-being. I wouldn't forget that guy, and I planned to make him regret how he treated us. About a week later, I went to the courthouse. I knew it wouldn't be like in America, where people sue over a stain on a suit. As I walked through the familiar halls, I heard my heels clacking on the floor. Suddenly, I spotted a man I recognized approaching me. I knew it was him. What should I say? I wondered. As I passed by, he looked up and said, you're that trashy single woman from the other day, aren't you? What are you doing here? This isn't the place for you. It was the same man who had yelled at my mother and me. I wanted to confront him, but I reminded myself that I was determined to fight back against people like him, with my strong sense of justice. Oh, I'm very sorry about the other day. You must be Tom Dixon from Honeywell Law Office, I replied, brushing off his insult. He was offended and began to complain about the tea incident, his face twisting in anger. I had a client appointment at the hospital afterward, and you embarrassed me. I don't get how a woman like you can ruin someone's suit and not even call me back. I realized he worked as a lawyer, and we just happened to run into each other here. His loud voice drew attention, and I felt eyes on me from all sides. Dixon continued to taunt me, speaking loudly so others could hear. I shook my head, which only made him angrier. Just then, someone behind me spoke up, asking, what's going on, Mr. Dixon? When Dixon saw who it was, he changed his tone, mumbling, oh no, this woman, as he reached for a business card from his case. The man looked up at me in shock as I picked up the business card. It read Attorney Hannibal, partner at Honeywell Law Office. This must be Dixon's boss and the CEO of the firm. As soon as he realized who I was, he started shaking and bowed deeply. Oh my, it's been a while. Dixon has been very rude to you. Please accept my apologies. Dixon, confused, asked, Mr. Honeywell, what's going on? Do you know this woman? He pointed at me and added, she's the one who ruined my suit and overcharged me for dry cleaning. Mr. Honeywell, turning pale, grabbed Dixon by the collar and forced him to bow. Ouch, what are you doing? Dixon exclaimed. Honeywell replied quietly, how dare you, Dixon? This woman is a prosecutor and my former boss, Smith. She always wins her cases. Dixon looked stunned, unable to believe that the single woman he had insulted was actually a prosecutor. Yes, I'm a lawyer, I said. Since I was a child, I couldn't stand injustice. I considered becoming a police officer, but chose to be a lawyer instead. I wanted to bring criminals to justice, even if I couldn't catch them myself. Now I work for the prosecution, after being invited by a former colleague to help advance my career. I often find myself in and out of the courtroom. By the way, Mr. Honeywell is a bit afraid of me because I helped him when he was just starting out. He's a serious man, but he's in trouble because a trainer and a rookie should always support each other. Attorney Dixon, shocked, wanted to speak, but I wouldn't let him. You've grown into a fine man, Mr. Honeywell, I said. Mr. Dixon, I'll pay your cleaning bill right away. I'm sorry, I've been so busy with work. Is that okay, brother-in-law? Dixon looked shocked and said, "No way, James's fiancé," he frowned, realizing what was happening. I looked at the business card he had thrown any earlier. This man was indeed my brother-in-law, who missed the wedding because of work. As I watched him, his face turned pale. As a lawyer, you know calling a single woman garbage is an insult. I continued, "I'm willing to pay for the dry cleaning, but your words were unacceptable. You could face up to a year in prison, or a fine of up to $3,000. Which do you prefer?" I said this with a smile. Finally, Attorney Dixon fell to his knees and begged for forgiveness, realizing his job was at risk. "Please forgive me. What if the press finds out?" he pleaded. Sometime later, I had a beautiful wedding and was happily enjoying married life. James became a full-time house husband, allowing me to focus on my work and support our family. My brother-in-law apologized multiple times to my mother and me. Wanting to settle things, I decided to let him write off the dry cleaning bill and move on. I could earn that money myself. He didn't come to the wedding, probably because he felt awkward. His business suffered because of his bad attitude and complaints from others. I realized that bad actions come to light. I promised myself to protect this new life so we could continue to support each other.